Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 24 playthrough of the Buffalo Wings. We are about to start our 2032 postseason here with the Buffalo Wings. Was a successful regular season. We were 94-68 for a second consecutive season, in the playoffs for a fifth consecutive year with our second division title in that time frame. And we also have the best record in the National League. So we will have home field advantage for as long as we are alive in the National League playoffs. And if we play any team except the Los Angeles Angels, if we happen to get to a World Series, we'll have home field advantage against anyone except the Angels from the AL. So it was a successful regular season. You can see we ranked third in the National League in runs scored, and we ranked first in the National League in runs against. Bullpen ERA first at 2.85, starters ERA fourth below 4, so it was a pretty good regular season. That said, we did have some unfortunate happenings towards the end of the regular season, and the most significant of those is longtime ace Shohei Ohtani out for 11 months with a torn labrum. He's 38 years old, going to turn 39 before he's healed from this injury. He was in the last year of his contract with us, but clearly this injury at his age could mean the end of not just his time in Buffalo, but possibly the end of his major league career. And that leaves a huge hole in our lineup, because Ohtani, with 27 homers and 79 ribbies, led our team in both of those categories before his injury. And he was also second on the team in ERA, second on the team in wins, third in strikeouts, and second in innings pitched. So clearly a huge loss. And when we look at our proposed team roster with the injury to Ohtani, Austin Wells and Joe Edwards, the veteran Austin Wells and the rookie Joe Edwards, who we brought up in September, going to be playing pretty prominent roles. Our number 2 guy in home runs this year, the always controversial and often put down Samuel Basallo, as I mentioned, second on the team with 21 homers, but we're going to be using him off the bench after a below average offensive season from him. And if he's not above average offensive defense, if he's not above average offensively, he's not adding a ton of value, since he does not bring much else to the table. The 21 homers and 333 at-bats was more than acceptable, but the 104 strikeouts, just 26 walks, 216 batting average, all problematic. So hopefully Basallo will have a chance or two to hit a big pinch hit home run for us at some point in these playoffs, but he will not be getting regular playing time. We're going to go with the combination of Wells and Edwards instead of him. Given that we do have the best record in the National League, and we're going to be playing a 82-win Dodgers team here in the NLDS, anything less than a trip to the World Series is a disappointment for this team. There's no other way to say it. We've been building this team for years. We're hoping that by the end of Ohtani's career with us, we'd be able to make a true run at a World Series title. Obviously, Ohtani, unfortunately, will not be part of that this year, but with 8 more wins than any other team in the National League this year, just has to be said, if we don't make it to the World Series this season is a bitter disappointment. And obviously, if we make it to the World Series, we're going to want to win if we get there. Still plan on letting the AI sim out the games for us with the settings of our bench coach. I have, thanks to the input of some of you, kind of tweaked some of the team settings, and I always kind of tweak the individual strategy settings for my players to hopefully give us a little quicker hook in the playoffs, and hopefully have the AI making some better decisions for us if we get to a Game 7 in the NLCS, or if we get to a potential World Series deciding game, it's possible that I'll play those out just for the fun and excitement of it for me. But otherwise, we are going to let the AI roll with things here and see how the playoffs go. And taking a look at the playoff tree, a couple of sweeps in the wild card series in the American League. The Twins taking out the Tigers, the Red Sox taking out the Blue Jays. So we got a Yankees and Red Sox ALDS and an Angels and Twins ALDS. In the National League, the Dodgers took out the Expos. The Nationals took out the Rockies. So St. Louis against Washington, and our Buffalo Wings against the big budget Los Angeles Dodgers here in the NLDS. And taking a look at our potential playoff matchup, or it's not a potential playoff matchup, it's an upcoming playoff matchup against the Dodgers. I think we should definitely be favored. As I talked about, we were 94-68. The Dodgers barely above 500. We took the 3-game season series 2-1 against the Dodgers. We rank third in the NL in runs scored and first in runs against, as I mentioned. They were fourth in runs scored, but 10th in runs against. So hopefully our pitching can shut the Dodgers down. We've got our former Dodger, Chris Sabatka, who we picked up in a big off-season trade. Proceeded to become our ace, going 15-12 with a 3.48 ERA this year. He is more than fully rested and ready to go, going up against Joseph Gonzalez for the Dodgers, most likely. Although I guess we're still a day away from the start of the series, so given that they were coming off of a wild card series, it's possible that they may make a change in who's going to be the pitcher when we actually do sim forward. No, it looks like it's still going to be Gonzalez against Sabatka. So Gonzalez looks like a pretty average-ish major league starter, 30-year-old, fragile physically, split the year between, he was all over the place. He was in AAA for a couple of organizations, and then 5-2 with a 4.08 ERA for Montreal, and then ended up with the Dodgers where he was 4-1 with a 2.68 ERA. So certainly would think and argue that the pitching matchup favors us here today. I'm assuming these are just scouting reports that are coming in, but just want to make sure I'm not missing anything particularly pertinent and important before. Yeah, we've just been kind of scouting our organization to see where we stand as of the end of the season. So this matchup being at home, the better pitcher on the mound for us, definitely feel like we need to get a W here in Game 1. And not to be the case, so the pressure already turning perhaps onto our Buffalo Wings. Sabatka took the loss against his former team. We did get a homer from Wells. Looking at the box score, the Dodgers got 4 runs in the first 2 innings, added 3 more in the 5th. So presumably it was a rough outing for Sabatka, and it looks like they also got to Andrew Painter in relief. Wells had the homer, as we talked about, drove in a couple of runs. Seifu and Estrada also with ribbies for us. But Sabatka, not good. 9 hits, 4 walks, 6 earned runs over 4 1/3 innings. That is a brutal pitching performance. Painter came on and gave up a big hit that scored a few runs. And then Backus, Carrillo, and Adams, some of our back end of the bullpen kind of guys, closed things out for us when the game was unfortunately largely out of hand. So disappointing start to the series. The Dodgers have taken home field advantage from us already. As I said, this season, if it doesn't end in a trip to the World Series, is going to be a bitter disappointment. And certainly going down 1-0 at home with our ace on the mound in a best-of-5 series is not the start to the playoffs that we were looking for. Game 2, Nick Frasso on the mound for the Dodgers. 33-year-old, 10-8 with a 3.78 ERA, throws close to 100 miles an hour. For us, Harleen Susanna on the mound, 12-10 with a 3.63 ERA, tied for the league lead in wins a year ago. I would say this is probably a pretty even pitching matchup. Hopefully, we can score a few more runs today and not allow quite as many as we did yesterday. And we didn't score more runs, but we allowed a lot less. A 2-1 victory. Susanna outpitched Frasso. Bryce Miller on for the save for us, so we needed that win. We got a run in the first. They came back in the third, took the lead in the fourth when Cam Collier had a RBI double for us, and that was the difference right there. Not a ton of offense. Wells with another ribby in addition to the ribby from Collier that was the game winner. Susanna, 3 hits and a walk, 1 earned run over 5 and a third innings pitched. And then Caleb Ferguson, Andrew Painter, and Bryce Miller with solid relief for us over the final few innings. So we at least are not down 2-0. Certainly the Dodgers still have taken home field advantage away from us with the win in Game 1 in Buffalo. Hopefully we can take at least one game in Los Angeles. So heading to Game 3 in Chavez Ravine, Hunter Brown going to be on the mound for the Dodgers. Looks like he had a good performance in his first playoff game against the Expos. Was 9-10 with a 4.21 ERA on the regular season. Certainly his pitching profile suggests he's probably a better pitcher than that, like the really good movement, like the extreme ground ball tendencies, likes that he throws in the high 90s. Doesn't look like he's been a particularly great major league pitcher over the past few years, but definitely like the profile of the one-time All-Star. And going for us, making his playoff debut for the Buffalo Wings, the young two-way player Juan Estrada, 11-10 with a 3.51 ERA for us on the season. And batting-wise, he hit .267 with no home runs, which is not great. But he did draw 67 walks, so his on-base percentage was .381. Unfortunately, he was not particularly adept on the bases this year, but still an above-average offensive player thanks to those walks. A lot of pressure to have a guy like him pitching Game 3. Obviously, if Ohtani had been in the rotation, we probably would have had Susanna on the mound today. But those are the breaks, and we need the youngster Estrada to have a big game for us here today. And we get a big game from Estrada, a 5-0 victory. Estrada with the win, Brown with the loss. Scored a run in the third, 3 in the fifth, and an insurance run in the top of the ninth. Looks like a Los Angeles error was key to those runs in the fifth inning. Seifu with a ribby, Estrada with a couple of ribbies on 3 hits to help his own effort, and Rutschman with a couple of ribbies as well. Seifu with a steal, Honeycutt stole a base, so solid performance here, and a 2-hitter overall for the Dodgers. I don't know if Estrada went all the way. He went 7 1/3 innings, allowed those 2 hits. Caleb Ferguson came on in relief. So just a brilliant outing from Juan Estrada, making his playoff pitching debut for the Buffalo Wings, and he gets us back on serve as far as home field advantage. Now I'd say the goal is obviously to hopefully win this Game 4 in Los Angeles and avoid even having to get to a potential deciding game, even though if we do get to that point, at least it will be in Buffalo. But we have a veteran pitcher on the mound today in Hayden Yinger for game number 4. 11-8 record, also had 3 saves for us. He was in the bullpen for the first couple of months of the season before he took over for a somewhat ineffective Jorge Carrillo in the rotation. 4.73 ERA, certainly not the most impressive. His Sierra almost a run better, but did not have a great season for us at 32 years old. But we have a crafty veteran on the mound going against Dre Jameson, another crafty veteran, 7-14 with a 5.63 ERA for the 35-year-old this year. Not a profile that is particularly intimidating when we look at where we think his ratings are. Hopefully we can score some runs off of him, even though we are playing out in Los Angeles. And a 1-0 win, so not a lot of runs, but the pitching really drove us in those last 3 games of the series. The Dodgers only scoring 1 run against us over the final 3 games. We only scored 8 in those 3 games, but pitched well enough. Yinger with the W, Jameson takes the loss, Bryce Miller with his second save of the series. No surprise that Juan Estrada with the gem, as well as some offense, is named the series MVP. Taking a look at the box score, we scored the run that we needed in the 3rd inning. Run scoring single by the center fielder Featherston. We'll be going up against the Nats or the Cardinals. The Cardinals lead that series. Not a ton of offense from us once again, but fortunately the pitching for us has been borderline brilliant over the last 3 games. Combined shutout for Yinger, Ferguson, Painter, and Miller here today in the 1-0 victory. Jameson a tough luck loser. And our Buffalo Wings are on to the National League Championship Series for the 3rd time in the past 5 years. We failed to get to the World Series either of our first 2 attempts. We'll see if we can get things right this time around. And looking at the playoff tree here, as we mentioned, Cardinals have a lead on the Nationals. Still need to find out who we're going to be playing. Yankees and Red Sox tied 2-2 in an epic series. Looks like it's headed to a Game 5 in the Bronx. But the winningest team in the American League, the defending World Series champion Angels, made quick work of the Twins 3-0. And we were able to at least beat the Dodgers 3-1 to get into the NLCS, as I mentioned, for a 3rd time in 5 years. And we are ready to get our NLCS underway. As I mentioned, we'll have home field advantage, and we'll be going against the NL West winning St. Louis Cardinals. The Red Sox ended up taking that 5-game series against the Yankees, and you can see the Angels are already up 1-0 on the Red Sox. If it ends up being a matchup of the 2 best teams in baseball in the World Series, we'll certainly take that, because that'll mean that we will end up going up against the juggernaut Angels as they're looking for a repeat. But got to get to the big dance to have a chance to win, and we'll see how we do against the St. Louis Cardinals. As I mentioned, the Cardinals were the NL West winners this year. We've already been over our statistics. We did take the series against St. Louis 2 out of 3. They were 2nd in the National League in runs scored, so the offense a little bit better than ours. 5th in the National League in runs allowed, so they're pitching a bit worse than ours. Only allowed about 38 more runs over the course of the season, or exactly 38 more runs over the course of the season. So pretty even matchup on paper. Certainly would think that as a 94-win team going against an 85-win team, we should certainly be the favorites, but we will see what happens. Sobotka on the mound for us today, going up against Tink Hence, 30-year-old, 10-8 with a 3.41 ERA, has a pretty impressive 4-pitch repertoire. Extreme ground ball pitcher, pretty good stuff, and above average movement and control also. So will be another tough Game 1 matchup at home for us. The hope is that R.A. Sobotka can do much better today than he did against his old team, the Dodgers, in Game 1 of that divisional series. And we do get a 6-5 win. It looks like went to the bullpen for the decisions. Carrillo with the win for us. Colby White with a loss for the Cardinals. Austin Wells with a home run for us. I think he's hit home runs in game one of both series. We took a 3-0 lead in the first, which was positive, but then they chipped away and eventually had a 5-3 lead on us going into the eighth. But a run in the eighth and then 2 in the ninth were the margin of victory. Cam Collier with a big walk, and then the young shortstop Tim Hull, a 2-run game-winning double for us in the bottom of the ninth. So a walk-off victory at home for the Buffalo Wings to get these playoffs started. Or I guess more accurately, it's a win at the beginning of this series. The playoffs are already underway, but certainly a chance to have the win probability shift like that in the final inning of the game is a event that hopefully means good things. Hopefully this is hard for the Cardinals to bounce back from. Take a look at the pitching performance. Sabatka was technically better than he was last time around. Still not really what we're looking for from our ace, though, with 8 hits, a walk, and 4 earned runs over 5 2/3 innings. Painter, similar to the last time, I think he filled in for Sabatka, also gave up a run as well. But Carrillo got the W in relief thanks to the comeback in the late innings. Hence, only went 4 1/3, pitching through just 79 pitches for the Cardinals. Colby White, as we talked about, the loser there, thanks to the big hit by Tim Hull, the double, the 2-run double to push us to victory. So we got to take the wins when we can get them, and we're up 1-0 on the Cardinals here in the NLCS. And headed to game 2 now. We've got Harleen Susanna on the mound. As I mentioned last time around, 12-10 with a good regular season. Pitched well in his first playoff game. Ethan Hankins did not pitch well previously in the playoffs for St. Louis. Looks like he may have been coming back from an injury. He is a fragile player who only pitched 1 game in the majors this year, 3 2/3 innings. Guessing that has to mean he was out most of the year. Oh yeah, torn labrum, suffered in spring training, kept him out for 7 months, but he is back in the rotation now. So looks like he minimal major league action. Obviously, he probably was healthy after the AAA season finished up, so they couldn't even send him on a rehab assignment. And he didn't pitch well, obviously, in his previous playoff outing or outings. Hopefully that trend will continue here today. Certainly think that the matchup favors us. And we do get a 9-6 victory. Painter with the win in relief. Bautista took the loss in relief for St. Louis. Miller with a save. Burbage, home runs in each of the first 2 games of the series. Joe Edwards, the rookie, with his first postseason home run. So we did our job at home. And once again, a bit of a comeback. The Cardinals took a 2-0 lead. We scratched our way back to go up 4-2, but then with 3 in the 5th and 1 in the 6th, they had a 6-4 lead on us heading into the bottom of the 6th. But after that, it was all Buffalo with runs in the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings. Juan Estrada, a 2-run double there in the bottom of the 6th to tie things up for us. And after that, as I mentioned, we got runs in each of the next 2 innings. So top of the order, really strong. Seifu, Estrada, and Rutschman, all with multiple runs batted in today. Susanna only went 75 pitches, 3 2/3 innings, scattered 6 hits, walked 1, only ended up giving 2 earned runs. Kyle Backus, the lefty reliever, came on and was not good. 7 pitches, only 1 out, 3 hits allowed, including a home run. So fortunately, we were able to bounce back from that, and Painter and Miller combined for 3 scoreless innings at the end of the game when we took the lead. So it hasn't been pretty by any definition, but a couple of later inning comebacks at home in games 1 and 2 of the NLCS give our Buffalo Wings a 2-0 lead as we prepare to fly to St. Louis. And as we begin the potential 3 games in St. Louis, really good pitching matchup today. Juan Estrada, the young star on the mound for us, against Pierce George, one of the nastiest pitchers in baseball, 14-11, led the National League in strikeouts, BABIP, WHIP this season. He has, at this point, led the National League in strikeouts for 5 consecutive seasons. Obviously, his change and his curve are world class. His stuff is dominant. So going to be a tough matchup for us here against Pierce George, with a 2-0 lead as we head to St. Louis. The goal is basically just to ensure that we get at least 1 win in St. Louis and head to home with a 3-2 lead, assuming that we can win one of the final 2 in Buffalo. Would clearly love to do better than that and not even have to go back to Buffalo until the World Series. But realistically, if we win a game in St. Louis, that is a good result for us. And not going to happen today. Pierce George looks like he was tough. 7-1 victory, so St. Louis narrows the deficit. Taking a look at the box score, they scored 4 in the 3rd, added runs in the 6th, 7th, and 8th. We finally got off the schneid a bit in the 9th, but dominant performance from Pierce George. 3 hits and 2 walks allowed over 7 innings, struck out 12. Estrada looks like Tim Hull, we're shortstop, with 3 errors and a lot of unearned runs. Only 2 hits and a walk and 7 strikeouts for Estrada, but 4 runs allowed. So ugly performance at shortstop today defensively from Tim Hull. That is for sure. Pierce George, not surprisingly, the pitcher of the game. And we'll have to put that one in the books and hopefully just move on. And hopefully we can bounce back today. And clearly the hope would be that we don't have to get to a Game 7 where we would face Pierce George again. Yinger on the mound for us in Game 4. Remember, he pitched in the winning Game 4, started for us against the Dodgers in the DS. Bobby Miller on the mound for St. Louis. Split the year between the Giants and the Cardinals. 6-7, 395 with the Giants. 5-2, 369 with the Cards. Looks like a good, solid major league pitcher. Throws pretty hard even at the age of 33 years old. And the Cardinals are giving it back to us here in St. Louis. They've taken 2 in a row to even the series, 2 games apiece. Looks like the same thing has happened in the ALCS, where the Red Sox have clawed back with 2 straight wins against the Angels. Yinger took the loss. Taking a look at the box score, we scored 2 in the 4th. Or 2 in the 1st. After that, though, it was all Cardinals. Juan Estrada with a run-scoring single early for us. And after that, not much going on. Seifu stealing some bases in the series, but Miller only went 4 1/3, but did fine. After that, they got 4 2/3 innings of perfect relief. No hits, no walks allowed. Yinger, not great. 68 pitches over 3 innings, allowed 7 hits, 4 runs. Painter even gave up some runs at the end. Heel, just not a good performance by really anybody, because we only managed 3 hits also, made another couple errors. Estrada and another one from Hull. If we had a good defensive replacement for him, it might be time to think about doing something. But Hull had a really nice year for us offensively this year, hitting 287. Still like the young shortstop a lot, but He seems to have a case of possibly the yips. I don't know if they're throwing errors or not that he's been having, but he's been making some mistakes in this playoff series. That is for sure. Looks like the Angels salvaged the 5th game, so they'll be headed back to Anaheim with a lead. Hopefully we can do the same thing. A rematch of Game 1 where we got the win in relief with the walk-off home run, or not the walk-off home run, but the walk-off hit. Sabatka going up against Tink Hence. Sabatka's 3rd start of the playoffs at this point, still doesn't have a W. Now would be a nice time for our ace to get one. And unfortunately not to be the case. Things are falling apart for the Buffalo Wings with 3 consecutive losses. Still have not lost at home in this series. So from that perspective, you can say that we're still in it, but we got routed in St. Louis. Just 4 runs over the 3 games against the Cardinals, while they scored 20 against us. They've scored runs in every game. Even in the losses, they had 5 and 6 runs. We haven't done much offensively since we were in Buffalo. Hopefully we can turn things around, but we are getting very near to the point where this 2032 season could end in bitter disappointment. Taking a look at the box score, they jumped on us early with 3 runs in the bottom of the 1st. Added 3 more in the bottom of the 7th. Seifu with a run-scoring single to drive in our only run in the 3rd inning. Estrada had 3 hits for us. He continues to perform very well in the playoffs, but not a lot of hitting by our Buffalo Wings in this playoff run so far. Sabatka, not good. 7 hits, a walk, 5 earned runs over 6 innings. Tink Hence was solid, only went 5 1/3 innings, but also only allowed 1 earned run over that time period. Looks like Cam Collier hurt while running the bases. Day-to-day with a bruised ankle, minimal impact on throwing and running, so hopefully nothing too serious there. But the season is teetering on the brink at this point, and again, as a 94-win team going up against a 85-win team, it's going to be a bitter disappointment if we don't get to the World Series this year. And it looks like the Angels have lost the first game of the final homestand against the Dodgers, so that series is tied at 3-3. Our goal here, certainly in Game 6, is to win and also get this tied at 3-3. Hankins and Susanna on the mound in a rematch of Game number 2. And our season is over. So, as I said, it's a bitter disappointment, especially after taking a 2-0 lead against the Cardinals to then go and lose 4 in a row. Looks like our closer, Bryce Miller, ended up taking the loss, so I'm sure it was a extra inning issue. Burbage, with his 4th home run of the series, named MVP. Rutschman finally provides a little bit of offense, but probably a little too late. And it was just a brutal end of the season for us. We had a 2-0 lead. They tied it up in the top of the 5th, 2-2 going into the 9th. They scored a couple of runs in the top of the 9th to take a 4-2 lead. We came back with a run in the bottom of the 9th, run-scoring single from Joe Edwards, but too little, too late for our Buffalo Wings. Just not enough offense in the playoffs, and quite honestly, the pitching ended up being disappointing, particularly in those last 4 games against the mighty Cardinals. Susanna was fine, 2 earned runs over 5 1/3 innings. Ferguson and Painter with good relief. We went to our closer in the top of the 9th in a tie game and gave up 3 hits, a walk, and 2 earned runs. And just a very disappointing end to the season. Felt like when we jumped out to that 2-0 lead, maybe we're going to finally at least get this team into a World Series, but it is not to be the case, and we will go back to the drawing board for the 2032 to 2033 offseason. It's going to be a very different looking team next year, with the potential departures of Basallo and Wells and the certain departure of Ohtani. We've got a lot of power and a lot of home runs that we're going to need to figure out how to replace, and hopefully we can do it with players who hit for a bit higher batting average than guys like Basallo have historically hit for us, and Wells and Ohtani hit for this past season. But feel like we've got a team that is pretty competitive. I mean, third in the league in offense, first in the league in runs against is a pretty good combination, and it added up to the best record in the NL this year. But once again, our Buffalo Wings have fallen flat in the playoffs, and the Cardinals are going to be facing off against either the Angels or the Red Sox in the 2032 World Series. And the Red Sox ended up coming back. They won the final 2 games of the series in California to upend the Angels. So the Angels will not repeat this year. And we've got a couple of classic franchises, the Boston Red Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals, who are going to be facing off in the 2032 World Series. And the Boston Red Sox defeated the St. Louis Cardinals 4-2 to win the 2032 World Series. So congratulations to our friends in Boston on a title. And now we've got a lot of decisions to make this offseason. Can see we've got a bunch of messages here. So my hope is that we did make money this year for a second consecutive season, and I believe with the playoff receipts that we ended up getting through the NLCS that we probably made even more money than we did last year. So my hope is that maybe we get another small bump in our budget for next season, because we've got a lot of work to do. We've built a team that is a consistent playoff entrant, and we built a team that's made it to the NLCS in 3 of those 5 years that we've made the playoffs. But we are 0-3 in the National League Championship Series at this point. And obviously the goal is not just to go to the playoffs, but to eventually bring a title to Buffalo. And so far we have failed in those efforts, unfortunately. Need an option decision on Hayden Yinger and Austin Wells. Willie Adames has failed to meet his vesting option. We knew that would happen when he wasn't a starter. Looks like we've got a lot of personnel and staff members who are leaving and retiring across the minor leagues and the major leagues. Scouting director Rick Hahn retired. Oh, wonderful. So that also means that we're going to have garbage scouting knowledge as the off-season begins. And we've got a ton of holes to fill in our organization. So we're going to have a lot of work to do in the off-season. Will we have some more money to work with? I think it's a very small increase. I believe we were at 226. I think 228, if I'm right about my numbers, is a $2 million increase. Yeah, it looks like we went from 226 to 228. We did end up making about $12.7 million next year, so it was a profitable season. So we've got a little more money to spend. Can't complain about it. 228 is as high as we have ever been with this team, so it seems like that's kind of the high watermark for what we can hope to get from ownership. So from that perspective, we're in as good a position financially as we have ever been. Unfortunately, as you saw during the episode, I had just been doing a deep scouting of everyone across our organization in potential for the off season, and now we are completely reliant on the filthy and unreliable OSA ratings rather than our own scouting report. So the first goal of the off season is going to be to get a excellent scout hired. I know some of you who are White Sox fans were on me for hiring fictional Rick Hahn anyways, given the fact that the White Sox seem to have massive expectations every year and always end up being pretty disappointing. I didn't think that fictional Rick Hahn would do the same thing to our team, but I think he did a decent job as a scout. But one of the things I really dislike about OOTP is that when your scout leaves or your scout retires, that institutional knowledge is somewhat gone. I mean, we can still go back through individual players, and actually once we have a scout we'll be able to see the past reports from our history, but now we can't even see anything from our previous scouts, which is just kind of silly and kind of lazy programming. But I have ranted against this in the past, and I am an old man yelling at a cloud at this point on this subject. So Yinger, I would think we will definitely bring him back for that relatively low amount. Austin Wells, quite honestly, with the fact that Ohtani is gone and we're likely moving on from Basallo, we actually could use a decent left-handed power bat. I just don't know that Austin Wells is the answer to that, and don't know that we want to be spending $5.5 million on a fragile 33-year-old who did not play all that well for us this past year. So probably exercise the option on Yinger. Probably don't exercise the option on Wells. Adames could definitely be back with us next year. The only captain personality we have, which is helpful. Wonder what he's looking for. Only looking for around $2 million. So as a utility infielder, something to consider. And then a just lot of staff members. Brian Conger, who had been a pretty good pitching coach throughout our organization. Jeff McCurry, a lot of pitching and hitting coaches retiring for us this season. So going to have a lot of work to do, and again, I'll feel better about doing it once we have a scout on board, but clearly that's going to put us a bit behind the 8 ball as we head into free agency. Of course, the first time in many, many years that we're going to have tons of money to potentially spend in free agency. Well, not tons, but enough where we could certainly get a big-time player if we want, and we're going to be kind of fighting that battle with one arm tied behind our back by not having good scouting reports. So it is what it is at this point. Obviously a disappointing season when all was said and done. Taking a look at what we've done over the 7 seasons here in Buffalo. As I mentioned, 5 playoff appearances in a row, 3 losses in a league championship series, but we are still yet to get to a World Series, and obviously that means that we are yet to win a World Series. So from that perspective, we have not been successful with what we've been trying to achieve with these Buffalo Wings, but hope springs eternal in baseball, and we are going to begin tackling the upcoming 2032 to 2033 offseason in preparation for the next baseball season in our next episode. And we'll also be taking a deep dive into our roster, how everybody performed last year, where they fit in or don't fit into this upcoming season. And we'll also be doing a deep dive on some minor league prospects in our system and other systems in these next few episodes. So if you're still with us now, hope you join us again for those episodes. Until then, thanks so much for watching and hope you have a great day.